You're listening to the Truth Unknown podcast. Tune in every week for all your favorite thought-provoking subjects. And remember to click that subscribe button.
Hi guys, and welcome back to another episode of Truth Unknown podcast. Great to be back. Hope you've all had a good week, whatever you've been doing. Get over to our Facebook page and drop us a line. Let us know what you've been up to, what you've discovered. Pleased to say we've got our Ben with us today, and we're going to crack on with another show. We've got a great show today, but before we start, I just want Ben to plug 401 Files again, because you didn't do it last week, did you?
No, I forgot last week, I think. Only 15 times. So 401 Files, guys, is a YouTube channel that I've been running now for 3 years, and it's all about extraterrestrials and the wild man, strange cryptids like Bigfoot, etc.
Enough of that. Tell us about this documentary you're making.
So I've been super busy, really busy making this documentary. The first one that I've ever tried to make, actually, so there is far more that goes into it than I actually originally thought. But yeah, as you know, I've been pestering you and everybody else for tips, tricks, and just ideas in general, really.
What's it going to be about, though? What can the viewers eventually expect to this documentary?
So I want it to be like, I won't give too much away, like the name, etc., but I want it to be a different take on the extraterrestrial phenomena. We've all heard about the strange lights in the sky and abductions, etc. And I'm sure there is people out there that have made documentaries like I'm trying to hit on. But I want to come at it from a different angle, like a fresh angle.
Well, super excited to see that. I am sick of getting pestered, so I can't wait for it to be finished. So, 21 we're going to call this, yeah?
Yeah. So we're going to talk today, I think, aren't we, about our house, our creepy house.
Where we was brought up.
Yeah, we lived there. I lived there for, I think it was like 18 I left to join the army. And obviously you're older than me. You was in that house a lot longer than me. But we're going to talk about that because I'm sure that you guys out there interested in the paranormal.
And I just want to say, I don't want to cover all this today because it would be unjust to absolutely everything that happened in that house.
Yeah, we can't just hammer all the stories from this house because, like I said, it is an 18-year period of things going on, high strangeness and very intense politics.
And that's what's led us to this point.
Yeah.
Because you started your YouTube channel because you've seen stuff, you witnessed stuff, then you've seen the extraterrestrial thing, which we will get into at some point. And me, ever since I've experienced the paranormal, I've been hooked on anything high strangeness just because I feel like if you can believe in the paranormal, then anything else is possible. And I have been a skeptic over the years where I thought, UFOs, really?
Yeah.
Bigfoot? Not sure. But I just think now...
Me and you especially, we've had so many strange, unexplainable things in that house. Growing up, our childhood, I would say, wasn't normal. Like, in terms of...
No.
Like, until you've grown up in a house that's haunted or got poltergeist activity, you will know what we're talking about. But this might be alien to you if you've never lived or experienced
it. Yeah, and I feel like the listeners might just feel like it got to be untrue because that much happened and it can't be real, possibly.
Yeah, well, people do say this. People say it to me all the time, even now, wherever I've been, like in places of work, and I've started to tell people these stories from this house. They'll always say, oh, it seems like too much happened. But what you're not realising is that this wasn't over a week. This was over 18 years. And sometimes we went months with nothing happening. Then other times we went months where everything happened. So that's one thing to bear in mind when we do start telling these stories.
So let's jump into it then, because I'm sure people want to know.
I'm going to have a sip of this lemonade. 1 second, you carry on talking.
Sorry to
carry on, I'm listening.
Okay, so 21. We're not going to give the address away because it would be unfair to the people that live there. And that one, I don't think they'd want people knocking on the door.
Yeah.
Even though I've emailed them, messaged them.
We need to do that again as well.
We do. I'm going to write a letter, you know.
Yeah, we should definitely do that.
But anyway, 21. What was it for you, or when did you first discover we had something not right in the house? Was it a feeling, or was it something you seen?
So for me, I don't know about you, because obviously you've got your own experiences and your version of things that happen in the house, but for me, growing up, being the youngest, I would often hear before I heard any adults talking about anything strange, I had an experience with something down in the living room. Do you want me to dive into that really quickly?
Do I?
Do you want me to, or should we save that for another?
It's like such a good story, and it's like if we give that away now, people's going to log off and be like, wow.
No, we will. We'll dive into it because I kind of feel like it sets the tone. So I was young. I'm not sure exactly how old, but I was probably below the age of 6 or 7, easily. I was probably about 4 or 5, wasn't I? Something like that at the time. And you was at school, and our older sister, she was at school. There was only literally me and Mum in the house at the time. And I remember on this particular day, Mum had said to me, Ben, do you want to sit downstairs, watch TV, or are you coming upstairs to play in your bedroom while I get in the bath? And obviously she locked the bathroom door. She didn't want you and Laura coming back, racing into the house and going straight upstairs into the bathroom. So she'd locked the door, and that's the reason she asked me. Well, I decided to sit downstairs and watch TV. And I was watching the programme, whatever it was. I got bored after about 5 or 10 minutes of watching this and decided to go turn the TV off. So I jumped off the sofa. I bent down in front of the TV and I turned the TV off. Now, it was the old style TVs that used to have like static. A lot of you older guys listening will remember these TVs. It used to be like a black and white speckle that would appear on the screen before going solid black. So I turned the TV off, the static appears, all these black and white speckles start to fade out. And as I'm sat there on the floor watching this happen, one particular patch within the reflection of the TV didn't fizzle out. It was just there, this white thing shimmering. And so as a young child, I thought, oh my God, like the TV's broke. I sat watching this in the reflection for a little while and then thought, something doesn't feel right. So I stood up off the floor and I made my way back to the TV, never really taking my eyes off the reflection at this time. So I never turned around, I just carried on watching it and headed back and sat down on the sofa. As I'm watching still in the reflection at this static object, this thing moving that was glowing white, I realised that it was off to my left, near the living room door. And so I'm watching it and I'm watching, and this thing started to shake violently. Like it almost became like a heat wave on a sunny day when you look down the road and you see the shimmer on the road. It was like that, but flipped vertically. Yeah. And like with the shape of a human. Head and shoulders, stood at the living room door, and I noticed that this thing started to get bigger. So that obviously meant that it was either growing in size or it was becoming closer to me in like, do you know what I mean? Like along the living room floor, it was growing. Yeah. Does that make sense?
So it was getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah, in the reflection.
Yeah.
It got to a point where I realised that this thing was actually coming across the living room floor towards me where I was sat. So I quickly just turned my head at the last minute to have a look at this thing, what it was, and it glided at an incredible speed across the floor right up into my face. And
wow,
as you can imagine, I was kicking all the cushions off the sofa. I scrambled up the back of the sofa. I tried to scream, and the weird thing was nothing would come out of my voice at all. Like there was nothing there, no noise at all. So I jumped off the back of the sofa. I ran around the other couch that we had.
So where was this figure?
Yeah.
In where it's compared to where you was?
Yeah.
Was this figure still in front of you when you run, or did you run round it, or?
Well, this is the weird thing. So like, as this thing glided across the floor into my face, I'm now kicking my way up the back of the sofa and looking off to my left at my getaway, where I'm heading. Yeah. So I don't know now where this thing is. It's off to my right somewhere. I'm just trying to get away. And so I ran to the living room door. Never looked back ever, and ran straight upstairs to the bathroom where Mum was. And I started like braying hell out the bathroom door, screaming at this point. Thankfully my audio had come back, I could speak, I could scream. And she came out asking me what the hell was going on, what was all the fuss about. And you can imagine how scared she was.
What was her reaction?
Well, this is what I'm going to say. Like, you can imagine as an adult listening to your 4 or 5 year old son talking about something white gliding across the living room floor.
Did she think, yeah, whatever?
I don't think she did. Like, that's the weird thing, is that her reaction scared me.
Because do you think our parents knew of something within that house?
Yeah,
but
definitely.
Didn't tell us because we were so young?
Well, this is what I mean. So, as a child, when you're in that kind of state of franticness and you're so terrified by something, you want reassuring. Well, my mum was kind of like, she knew that what I was saying.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It wasn't like, oh, you're just talking rubbish, like you've seen something over-imaginative.
You can tell by somebody's reaction.
There was none of that. Like it was like she knew that what I was saying made some kind of sense. And that was the first time, like, to answer your question.
That is just petrifying, especially for somebody so young.
Yeah.
To see something like that.
And then after that, growing up, to answer your question, I started to notice that all the adults in the house, you included, Dad, my mum, everybody else would always say things like, all right, keep it down, don't talk. Like, you know, because I was the young one in the house.
Yeah.
It became quite apparent that people were trying to shelter me from some of the other stories that were taking place.
Yeah, for me, it was the atmosphere and the feeling initially.
Yeah. So let me ask you this then. So that was my first experience of something strange, and then after that, obviously hearing everyone else have stories.
Yeah.
What was your first experience?
So initially, the house had an atmosphere. Looking back, it had an atmosphere, but you asked me what was my first experience.
Yeah.
It was with a sleepover with a friend.
Yeah.
So you're young, you're having these sleepovers, you got your best mate around, you're listening to music.
Yeah.
So my mate stayed over. It was quite late, and we was listening to some trance music back then.
Yeah.
And it was quite late, so my mum shouted up, "Turn that music off now, it's time to go to sleep." So turned the music off, and it came back on. So I thought, strange, but just turn it off again. But I unplugged it.
Was you getting into bed at this point? So you turned it off, you jumped
turned
into
it
bed?
off, jumped into bed, just chatting. 5 minutes passed and we're still talking, me and my mate.
Yeah.
Music comes back on. So I'm thinking, all right, didn't think much of it. Turned it off, unplugged it. Next minute, static, like radio when it's searching for a signal.
Yeah, wow, that's...
But then came back on.
Yeah.
And me and my mate was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
What is this? So we both sat up, bolt right, discussing it. Mum shouted up at me, she's going mad. She told me to turn music off 10 minutes ago. It's come on twice since then.
Yeah.
After that, nothing else happened. But we was up all night pretty much discussing what was that. We unplugged it.
Yeah. So hang on, so this was doing this unplugged?
Yes.
Oh my God. Like.
But that, and you know this,
Yeah.
wasn't the first time something happened unplugged.
Yeah.
So I want to touch on that as well. It wasn't my first experience, but because we're talking about it, I'll jump straight in. There was a toy piano.
Yeah, this is a few years later now.
Yeah, a few years later, but I still think we're on the same track, so I'm going to discuss it.
Yeah.
So a few years later, toy piano. It played, it had batteries in or whatever. It was playing, took the batteries out, and it played.
I remember this.
And it played, didn't it?
I think me, you, and Mum were sat downstairs.
Yeah.
And we heard these, like... we heard the sound of the piano playing upstairs. Someone was pressing the keys of the piano, but we thought that it's faulty and the batteries need replacing. So we all go up there. Well, first of all, Mum said, go turn that piano off.
Yeah.
So I think I went upstairs. It was in the middle of the room playing on its own. I'd shouted you two up. And now we're all stood at the bedroom door looking at this piano playing by itself in the middle of the room.
Yeah.
In the middle of the bedroom. And that in itself might be creepy, but explainable.
Yeah, because some things like it's electronic, innit? It could have a fault, it could have anything.
Yeah, and I think that's what we was all thinking at that point.
Yeah.
This is faulty, it needs the batteries changing, one of the keys is stuck, or whatever it may have been. But where it gets real strange is it had no batteries in.
No.
This thing was playing in the middle of the room, keys going down with no batteries in.
Not plugged into the wall,
Nothing at all. And we was just all stood there at the door. But that is one of many creepy things that came from this house.
I wouldn't say it was constant because, like you said at the beginning, this was over many, many years. Stuff happened.
Yeah, definitely. Like the thing is, people always say to me all the time, "Well, why didn't you just leave?" And this is one of the, you must have had that.
Yeah.
And I always say to people like that is, I'll tell you why we didn't leave. Because you've got to think of my mum and dad, right? They're young parents with 3 children living on a council estate, right? And it wasn't like things were happening all the time. We had months where things wouldn't happen. Maybe 3 or 4 months.
And I think that's why now, when people say to me, what was it like? I always say I got used to it. And I know you say you never can get used to it or whatever, but because it happened over a long period of time, I felt like I was used to it. Like, I could go a couple of days and not think about it, and something happened, I'm just like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, well, it was them downtimes, wasn't it? It was the months of nothing happening where you'd think, oh, well, maybe it's not too bad. I can put up with 2 weeks of stuff happening if it's 3 months of whatever. And, but sometimes it would go for 2 or 3 months where everything happened. So that's the reason I think Mum and Dad just didn't up ship and leave.
Yeah, and for me, it's just like, I've never been able to let this go.
No, this house, guys, was absolutely terrible. Just to set the scene a bit more, if you were mad, the best way I can describe this, right, is being in, say, like a gymnasium, like a hall, and it's jam packed full of people, right, and you're the only one in there, and everyone else is staring at you.
It felt like that.
Yeah, everywhere you went, in every room, that's how it felt. Like 1,000 eyes were just staring at you.
And if you can remember, we had a room called the wash house, yeah.
Yeah.
And it was where, back then, you'd put 50p in the meter.
Yeah, that's right.
And it was dark.
Real
and
dark.
If that electric went out...
Oh, boy, that is the scariest.
You'd have to go in there, through the kitchen, into this wash house. And this wash house, even in daylight.
There was no wallpaper in this wash house. There was no plasterboard. It was brick, old style brick, and it was dark, like in this wash house. And like Gaz just said there, that is where the meter for the electric was. And there's been many of times, you probably experienced this yourself.
Yeah.
You come home from school, you're upstairs playing on your computer, everything goes off. Completely goes off, the electric's gone, and you've got to go all the way through the house in the dark to this wash house to put the emergency on.
Terrifying.
Absolutely terrifying.
I used to dread that.
I did as well. I remember.
And I can't even explain to the listeners, like, the feeling.
Yeah.
Just dread of going downstairs in the dark.
This house was terrible, like the worst. But going on from what we've just talked about there as well, people might be thinking, well, you were all kids, like this is an over-imaginative brain, watching too many films, whatever. But our parents were baffled.
Yeah.
Friends of our parents were baffled.
And I just want to say as well, before we jump on to some of what they witnessed or what they felt at the time, we had a dog.
Boy, yes,
and they say dogs can...
Really super sensitive.
Yeah. Well, we had a dog called Bouncer, and if anybody's seen the soap opera... Is it soap opera? Neighbours?
Yeah, Neighbours. They used to have a golden...
Labrador.
Yeah, Labrador called Bouncer. Well, that's exactly the same dog.
Exactly the same dog. And this dog was petrified.
Yeah.
Sometimes it'd just sit at the bottom of the stairs, looking up there, barking, crying...
Yeah, I remember a time when we had new carpets laid in the house and Mum was real strict. No one's going upstairs with food, drink. The dog doesn't go upstairs because we need to look after these new carpets. And one time we'd heard something upstairs and the dog was going crazy in the kitchen, scratching at the door, barking, growling, snarling. And we went in there thinking that, okay, maybe he just needs to go out to the toilet. As we opened the kitchen door, he bolted past us, straight up the stairs, on these new carpets, which was so out of character for him. He knew that he was never allowed upstairs at any point.
Yeah, he always stayed in the kitchen. He was pretty much bed in there, wasn't it?
Yeah, but he was hell-bent on going upstairs. So he ran past us, upstairs, and he was on all fours, looking at something under the bed. Growling, teeth showing, hair standing on end, and we couldn't see anything, could we?
No.
There was nothing under that bed, but... This dog...
He clearly did.
Yeah. He clearly did see something.
And eventually that dog ran away. Never came back.
Never to be seen ever again, so...
Yeah.
But, that poor dog must have been able to sense things on a way high level.
And because this is going to be episode 1 of what 21 was all about, I don't want to tell you everything today. I think, like I said, it would be...
I think today's podcast on 21 is just setting the scene of this house.
Yeah. And if you're enjoying this so far, trust me, there's a lot more to come.
Oh, my God, like, amazing, mind-blowing things.
But what I will say is, like, I want to touch on something that I experienced, but also my dad experienced. And that was... It's hard to tell the listeners the layout of the house.
Yeah.
But if you can imagine walking upstairs, turning left, and straight in front of you is the bathroom door. You would then turn left again, and then the toilet would be into a corner.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah.
I'd stand up, having a little tinkle.
Yeah.
And I would hear my name in my ear.
Yeah.
Gary.
Yeah.
Gary. And I'd be like, yeah? I would reply to that.
Because it was so believable.
Or it was like you saying Gary.
Was it a man or a woman?
It was a woman, but a soft tone.
Any idea on age? A young woman, a girl, or an old woman?
At the time, I couldn't tell you. But later, when I seen what I seen,
yeah,
I would then put an age to what that...
What would you say?
An old lady.
An old lady.
An old lady.
Yeah.
But at the time, I wouldn't know.
The scary thing about that, because
the scary thing about it is, mate, I've knocked one out. I'm a teenager.
Yeah.
This spirit's been watching me.
Yeah. Tissues all over the bedroom floor, and Spirit's just stood in the corner there, egging you on.
Go on, Gus.
Yeah. But yeah, like I was going to say, the scary thing about that is Dad's obviously experienced voices as well, like someone saying his name.
Yeah.
And that's always baffled me, because does that mean that they know who you are personally?
And I think we've touched on this, haven't we? Was it in the Ouija board series?
Yeah.
About them being here in the now?
Yeah, exactly. Or does it mean that they're watching it? They maybe don't know you personally, but they're still a part of our realm, and so they know who you are, and they watch you going about your daily business. Is that what's happening? It's just so weird that someone knows your name.
Yeah, but you used to call me Gaz growing up. Everyone did.
Oh, hang on though. So the name said Gaz, not Gary.
No, it said Gary.
Would I have called you Gary?
No, you'd always call me Gaz.
That's freaky. So
Yeah.
hang on a sec. So this now has taken a different turn for me in my head. So this isn't someone that's close to you then, because people.
When do you ever call me Gary?
I never call you Gary.
Exactly.
I don't even think Mum or Dad called you.
Even in the house, I was always called Gaz. But this thing was Gary.
It's very informal. Like, that's somebody out of your circles.
Yep.
Oh, wow, that's creepy.
Don't get me wrong, someone might have called me Gary, but it wasn't a common thing to call me Gary.
No, it never in that house.
Nobody calls me Gary.
No, everyone calls you Gaz.
Yeah. But this was...
The only people, that's what I'm saying, the only people that would have called you Gary, I think, is people out of your close circles.
So, say my
teachers,
auntie.
teachers.
Oh, yeah, but maybe an auntie.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, it wasn't even that, it was like little Gazzy.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you know what I mean? It was never a Gary.
Yeah. So, that's a creepy thing in itself,
But if you can just imagine hearing that so clear, you feel like you need to respond.
Because it's so accurate, yeah. Weird.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
And when no one replies to you saying, yeah? Yeah?
So let's dive into another story, because we've got so many to go at here. We're not going to, like I've said, we're not going to talk about them all, but we can maybe throw one or two more in.
Why not? We've got years of it, haven't we?
Yeah, so what do you feel we should... What's one that sticks out for you? Don't give anything too juicy away just yet.
I don't want to do the match of the day one.
No, don't do that yet. No.
Because that is beyond proof to me and beyond belief that spirits exist, but they do.
That is beyond truth.
So tune in for episode 2.
Nah. Tune in for episode 2 for that one, because that is a mind bender.
So I'll tell you one about a hamster ball. If you can, anybody as a hamster, as a child, they'll remember the hamster ball. You put a hamster in a ball, it rolls around and runs around the bedroom, yeah?
Yeah. The old school exercise thing for you.
Yeah. So I used to be really into my music growing up.
I thought you was going to say I used to be really into my hamsters growing up. I used to be so into my hamsters growing up.
I used to be a David Attenborough.
Yeah. I had hamster balls everywhere. I couldn't move for hamster balls. Right, go on. Back to your story.
I need to compose myself. Right, so...
Really into your music.
Really into my music. Again, I had a lot of friends when I was growing up. We was listening to music, and I used to... If anybody's listening to this and they're into music, they will know what it's like recording the radio back in the day.
Yeah.
You would try and press record, and then stop it before the adverts came on, yeah? And they had shoe boxes full of music.
Yeah.
That's by the by. They don't want to wear that. But out of the corner of my eye, I see this hamster ball roll. Didn't think out of it. Probably should have done, given by this point I knew things was happening.
Yeah.
My friend seen it, he's like, what the fuck? What's going on here?
Yeah. So was he sat on the bed behind you while you're editing?
We're both sat on the floor.
Yeah.
So the stereos, plug sockets on floor, stereos on floor. We're both sat there and it just rolls.
Yeah.
Out the corner of our eye. So we just dismiss it, carry on doing what we're doing. Next thing, it's dropping out of air. It's literally taken off and it's landed next to us. So we are pressing record, stop as fast as we can, throwing everything out of the way, running away. For me, that was frightening.
Yeah.
Because sometimes your mind can play tricks on you.
But not to that extent.
No.
Not unless there's mental issues going on there.
Yeah, but some, you know when you like, something out corner of your eye moves, or you think it's moving, but then you look at it and it's like, nah, it's all right.
Yeah.
But then when you see it floating in air,
and
it's landing next to you, that hits home. That's not normal.
No. And I can relate.
And the best thing about that is, I had friends that witnessed all this. This wasn't me just saying, I've seen something.
Yeah.
And we had other family members as well coming to the house.
Oh, there were so many people, like, outside of our circles that had no reason to join in with this elaborate lie, if that's what you want to think of.
Yeah, exactly.
They had nothing to gain from joining in with what we were saying.
No, and you might say, as children,
yeah,
you might have something to gain. It's a prank, it's a joke.
But then there's adults doing it.
Yeah, exactly.
There's people outside the family home doing it. There's people that visited saying these same stories and experiences. But I've got one as well, similar to what you've just said. And so you was just saying, like, you know when something moves.
Yeah.
Or if it's just your imagination. Well, I was in the back bedroom. You remember that one?
Yeah, the small bedroom.
Yeah, the small bedroom in the house, at the back of the house.
And so the listeners know, explain where.
Yeah, so you come through the front door and you head straight upstairs. Directly in front of you was the stairs. You go upstairs and to the right at the top of the stairs was 2 bedrooms. The furthest bedroom was the small back bedroom, which was used by my sister growing up before she left.
Yeah.
And then the closest bedroom to your right was where we'd sleep.
Yeah.
Well, when our sister left, because she was obviously older, she moved out, got her own place, you kept the big bedroom on the closest right, and I took the little back bedroom, which was always, in my opinion, the scariest.
It's creepy.
It was real creepy, real creepy. Well, I moved into that bedroom, and one night I was playing on the Xbox, the old Xbox, and just off to my right, where I'm sat on the bed, I had a shelf on the wall full of deodorant cans and smellies. And I'm playing the Xbox, I'm watching the TV in front of me, but I'm always aware that this shelf is there. I can see it in my peripheral vision with like these deodorants and stuff on. And I'm playing, it's getting late, and I see a deodorant can slide from one end of the shelf back. But because I'd been playing for so long, I thought, oh man, my eyes are playing tricks. I need to give this.
It's strange how you always question it.
Exactly.
Point,
I need to give this a rest. My eyes. I've been playing Xbox for too long. I'm rubbing my eyes, and I'm thinking, right, I'm just going to give this a rest. But I left it about 10 minutes, 10-15 minutes, and pressed play again, started playing. It did it again. The same deodorant can moved from one end of the shelf back to where it was. So this time I was pretty much more adamant about what I'd seen. And so I thought, you know what, right? I know I saw that. I'm going to mark it with, like, take a visual or a mental grid of where that can is.
But what was your fear levels like then?
Well, at this point...
You've seen it twice, and now you're even marking it.
I know, but at this point I'm still second guessing. I'm thinking, okay, maybe I am tired, maybe... I'm trying to explain it away kind of thing in my own head.
I find it so fascinating that, and I've done it. You've seen things over and over again, but you're still trying to work out...
What it is. Yeah. And so, for the second time of this can moving back and forth on the shelf, I thought, right, okay. I took a long, hard look at the shelf. I made a mental note of where all the other cans was, like the Lynx cans and Duke back in the day, or whatever it was. Yeah. And I thought, right, I know now that is perfectly in line with that can. If it moves any other place on that shelf, I'm going to know about it. And so I carried on playing, and say like 15, 20 minutes passed. This thing didn't move, but it started to wobble like a spinning top, as if it was almost about to fall over on the shelf, as if someone had just tapped the top of it to unsteady it. And so I'm watching this in the corner of my eye, right? Off in my peripheral vision. And I quickly paused the game, expecting it to stop, and I snapped my head to the right to have a look. And I honestly thought, I don't know why I thought this, like in the movies where they look at it and it stops. Yeah. I thought that's what would happen. It didn't. This thing was still rocking back and forth on the shelf. And I'm sat there on the bed looking at this thing thinking...
And you couldn't see nothing? No figures, no nothing?
There was no hand, there was no person there. You couldn't even get to the shelf without coming on the bed. It was above where the bed is. So there was no one in that room. It was like literally the smallest box room ever. Do you know what I mean? So I'm watching this deodorant can rock back and forth in complete amazement. And as it got to a point where it just looked like the next rock, it was going to completely tipple over... It shot off the shelf and hit me, roughly around like the side of the face, near the neck area, like somewhere around that area. I literally threw the Xbox controller honestly, I kid you not, I threw the Xbox controller on the floor. I got wrapped up in all the cables and wires. I pulled the Xbox off the shelf, and I made my way to the door. And literally, when I got to the top of the stairs, I didn't even look. I just held onto the side, swung around and jumped every single step, and I landed in a massive pile at the bottom of the stairs. Mum and Dad was in the living room at this time, and I'm just absolutely hysterical, screaming, and they come out, what the hell's going on? What are you doing, you idiot? Like, what are you doing down there? And I'm trying to get out what I'd just seen and what's happened, but again, absolutely terrifying.
But at this point, this thing, it's not just a spirit, it's not just a ghost, if you like. This is now a poltergeist.
Oh, mate, honestly, I was watching this can for it felt like a lifetime. It must have only been a few minutes watching it rock back and forth.
I think what will highlight that this is a poltergeist is some things we're going to say in episode 2.
Yeah, definitely. But I'm watching this can, like I said, it was a good few minutes, but it felt like a lifetime, because I honestly thought that when I turned to look at it, it would stop, just like you see in the movies. Yeah. It didn't. And it was that realisation and that heart-sinking feeling of, oh shit, this is not stopping. It should have stopped.
Like, at what point did you think... So before that, you didn't think, I'm just going to run now? This is wobbling the hell out.
No. So what happened then is that I'm watching this can that I thought should have stopped moving, but it's still there in front of me, rocking back and forth on the shelf. And I'm thinking, what is causing it to do that? So even like you just said, I'm still trying to rationalise it.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, I don't know why at this point, it makes no sense. Get the out of there. Do you know what I mean? But I'm watching it and I'm trying to rationalise what's making it do this. And just as it is about to tipple over, it looked like someone had flicked it with the greatest power you can ever imagine, because it just shot off at that right angle and hit me in the face or the side of the neck. And like I said, I got tangled in all the wires from the Xbox. That came flying off the shelf and I just scrambled for the door.
Jeez.
But why it would do that? Why?
Clearly don't want us there.
Maybe so, but
and I think, like I say, when
why
we discuss
at that point?
more, it will become clear that that thing was a poltergeist.
100%.
And it didn't want us there.
100%. People talk about poltergeists, right? You see it in the movies all the time. The progression is exactly right.
Yeah.
Whenever I watch a horror movie, it normally starts off slowly. People will see a shadow or an apparition in the corner of their eye. Then there might be a loud bang upstairs and they'll go investigate. And then it'll progress to something being moved and they can physically see it being moved in front of them. Then it'll progress to a voice being heard. And that stage of progression, I think, is so accurate.
Unbelievably, exactly the same. And there's something I want to say. It played tricks on us as well.
Oh,
so
it was, yeah.
At this point, I had a girlfriend. I was a teen. My mum was smoking. My teen girlfriend at the time, she was smoking.
Yeah.
Looking all over for this pack of 10 fags.
Yeah.
Could not find them anywhere. They looked all over.
I remember this one.
In and out of the kitchen, in and out of the room, nothing. And then they go into the kitchen and there they are on the floor, stood up.
Yeah.
On their end.
Yeah.
So that, whatever it was playing games.
Yeah. And like, you might say, oh, well, maybe it was just, like, you didn't look hard enough.
Oh, no, they were looking. They was getting angry at me because I wasn't helping them look.
Exactly.
They wanted to know where their fags was.
Things would go missing all the time, like, and it gets to a point where the first few times you might think, oh, I've misplaced it. I forgot where I've left my keys. I forgot where I've left that.
Yeah.
But this was happening all the time and turning up in places where you blatantly knew that you checked, or it was blatantly impossible to have missed. For example, stood up on the kitchen floor in the middle of the room.
And my mum had a similar thing with the hairspray.
Yeah.
Do you remember that story?
No, I'm not quite.
So
maybe if you say it all.
She was getting ready for work. She sat there with a mirror in front of her, but she's on the floor.
Yeah.
She's looking for a hairspray everywhere.
Yeah.
She had it next to her. It was on the left-hand side. She knew it was there.
Yeah.
She went to reach for the hairspray. Wasn't there. So she's looking to her left. She's looking to her right. And it just drops out of the sky. Just drops out of her fresh air.
A bit like your hamster ball story.
Exactly like that. Just drops out and lands on her knee.
So weird. Like, how does that even make sense?
It's unbelievable. And this was... I wouldn't say constant, because like we say, these stories that we're telling you, this was over a period of time. This wasn't like every day.
No. Over 18 years for me.
Yeah. And it's same for me. It was a long period of time that things happened.
Yeah.
But they did happen.
Yeah.
And all these stories that we're telling you today, so genuine.
And this story for me has so many like twists and turns, because we tried to contact him, didn't we? Let me just run this past you real quick, guys, right? So I left at 18 to join the army, and you'd left long before me, I think. Yeah. So we left after living 18 years in this house and living through these experiences. That house, since we left, has been up for sale how many times, guys?
7 times.
7 times, right? And nobody has stayed in that house for longer than, say, 4 years.
No.
And one time, me and Gaz, as we do, talking about these kind of creepy things, thought that was very odd. And you was like, do you know what? I'm going to Facebook him. I'm going to see who's, I'm going to track down who's living in that house. And I was like...
Yeah, so she was...
I was like, Gaz, no, you can't do that. She's going to think you're an absolute
So I just put the house address in.
Yeah.
And it turns out she's got her own business from the house. So she's looking after children. She's got like a daycare.
Yeah, she's turned the house basically into a nursery.
A nursery.
Yeah.
So I look at her website, I find out her name, find out her details, try and get in touch with her on Facebook.
Yeah, because all we wanted to do at this point was just say, look, have you ever experienced, we used to live there, we was past tenants.
You imagine it though, mate.
Yeah.
Come on. It probably wasn't the best thing to do. You imagine now getting an email and saying, oh, I lived in your house for 18 years. So haunted. Is there anything you want to tell me? How would you feel?
Yeah, you'd be like, what the hell? Who is this person? But we did debate that part of it for a while, how to word it. And we came up with like a really good like pitch. And we didn't make ourselves sound too crazy, but we got our point across. And Gaz messaged this woman that now lived in the house. And actually, we don't know if she still lives there. So just thought I'd make that point. But anyway.
By the way, we're going to find out because we're written it again, aren't we?
Yeah, we're going to do this again. But
we're going to write a letter and post it.
100%. So Gaz wrote out this script, this pitch. We didn't make ourselves sound too crazy. We just wanted to get the point across that we'd lived in this house and creepy things had happened. Have you ever experienced anything similar? And what was the reply you got back, Gaz? Almost instantly. What was it?
I can't remember exactly.
I think it was something
word.
It was something like, "You don't scare me."
Yeah,
it wasn't
something like that.
It wasn't your typical.
She didn't want to engage.
No,
she didn't want to discuss it. But it was to the point as if like we was playing a game on her.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't. It was. We sent a message asking her, and you would expect the reply to be something like, "What do you mean? Like, what do you want? What are you talking about? I don't understand." The reply came back almost instantly. "You don't scare me," which is very a matter of fact. That almost tells me that she's experienced something, but she's not going to be put off by some random person talking about it.
Crazy. I mean, this was so many years
ago. And then
ago.
we went to message her back, and she'd blocked you.
Yeah, she blocked me. I went to see.
I've often wondered, like, and I know this is a weird theory to go down, was that actually a person? Or was that someone in the house? Like, do you know...
Oh, mate, that is a rabbit hole. And no. It was do you know what I mean? He was saying it was a spirit?
Yeah, I am. I'm saying, like... I mean, that reply came back quick. And the wording, "You don't scare me," like, and then to block you straight away. Was that anything to do with a human living there now, or do you think that's spirit?
Chance. That was a...
You think?
Of course it was.
Weird.
100%. And you know what? It's like...
Are we going to do that again? We need to find out.
All my life, and the listeners need to know this, this has haunted me past moving out of that house. I can never switch off. We always talk about this. We discuss it every time we're talking about paranormal, extraterrestrial, whatever. Yeah. It always comes up. I can't let this go. And I don't think I can ever let it go. Because I've witnessed things that I can't explain, and I want to get to the bottom of it. Now, the only way to get to the bottom of it is to find out we aren't the only ones. And yes, we had family experienced it. We had friends. But did we leave and then it stop? Or did it continue for the next person?
Well, I think the track record of that house and people living in the house for a short period of time tells me that it did carry on and other people had the same experience. I mean,
I want to know that.
7 times and no one stayed in it longer than 4 years. That's a massive turnover.
Yeah, wow.
For a house that is in probably high demand in that area, like now. Young parents, kids wanting to get settled down. Nobody out of 7 tenants to live in that place has stayed for longer than 4 years.
Guys, please, right? How would you word this letter for us to get a response? Jump on our Facebook at Truth Unknown Podcast.
Yeah.
Let us know how you would get a response and what you would put in that letter, because...
We don't want to sound crazy. We don't want to sound like...
You're going to sound crazy, aren't you?
Yeah, but there's got to be a right and a wrong way of doing this. Like, I don't want to be like, hey, we're just some ghost hunters and we're trying to figure out...
But we're not ghost hunters.
No, exactly. But we don't want to come across like that. So we need your help, guys. If you know how we should word this to the tenants that are living in that house now, we really just generally want to find out if anybody else has experienced what we have.
This house has led us to where we are now. We are both passionate about finding anything about this house and about the paranormal, about extraterrestrial. Because once you get into one thing, it spirals, doesn't it? It's like...
Yeah.
But right, I think we're going to wrap this show up here today.
Yeah, hopefully we've hooked you, because that's all this episode was. It was kind of like a hook, a taster for what's coming next, because there is so many stories, guys, that are going to blow your mind about 21.
And if you've lived in a haunted house, again, get on our Facebook. Like we say, we're a new podcast. There's not much going on there, but you can change all that. We would love voicemail messages, text messages, messages. We are going to...
Stories. Get your stories sent into us.
Yeah, we want to know, because... what we've experienced, we're not the only ones.
100% not.
There is other people out there who may be scared to talk about this.
Yeah.
You can do it through us. We want to know more. So please, please, please get to the Facebook page, Truth Unknown Podcast. Send us a message.
Yeah. Until next time, guys, I've been Ben.
Peace out, guys. Thank you.